Hi everybody, welcome back to video number 30 in my Richard Laymon horror novel review series. Sorry it's been a long time since the last one, but I had one hell of a cold the last week or 10 days. But I'm okay now, so I'm back doing this with 1993's Alarums. So let me get straight on with it. There's the cover art. It just shows a blood-spattered car in the rain with a shadowy figure behind the wheel. It's by Steve Crisp, and this comes in at 307 pages. It's one of his shorter novels. And here's the back, which says, Melanie Conway is a pale and lovely violinist who has strange visions of death. When she crashes to the floor during a concert, her boyfriend, Bodie, is at hand to hear her fearful premonition of disaster. Penelope Conway is even more stunning than her sister, but her looks frequently get her into trouble. Although she takes herself seriously as a writer, men only seem impressed by her beauty. The last thing she needs is a series of obscene phone calls. Captivated by these two alluring sisters, Bodhi finds himself drawn deep into a strange mystery that is fired by sex and haunted by blood. Right, so this is the second book that Laymon would write in the kind of giallo genre. The other one, which would come after this, is Among the Missing, which I've already reviewed. Among the Missing is a better book than this one, but this isn't bad. It's just a bit of a strange one. It's the book which, even in Laymon's popularity heyday in the 90s, barely anyone ever spoke about this. I remember it very well. Myself and my aunts were heavily into Richard Laymon, and we'd often talk about his books, but no one ever seemed to even mention this one. It just it came and went, which is odd because it was right in the middle of his absolutely classic period. This came among books like The Stake, Funland, Darkness Tell Us, Blood Games, Savage, all of his kind of late classic era masterpieces. He dropped this one right in the middle of it. And like I said, it's a strange one because before this rereading, I had read it once before, and the only thing I remembered was that I had enjoyed it when I read it. I'd enjoyed it well enough, but I couldn't remember a thing about it going into it this time, last week. And I'm pretty sure that a year from now I'll be in a similar situation because I enjoyed reading it a lot this time also, but I don't think I'm going to remember much, if anything, about it a while from now, because there are just no memorable scenes or images that stick out. Certainly no memorable characters. The closest is is Melanie, the violinist, to being memorable because, well, she's the only one in the book who stands out as kind of odd. She's something a little bit more interesting than just the standard one-dimensional Laymon characters. But even she was a missed opportunity because I think that Laymon does a very good job in the first half of the book by implying in various subtle ways, for him subtle, that Melanie is a troubled person and an unreliable narrator in what she says. And this casts doubt on the descriptions of these visions that she claims to be having. Spoilers coming up, so turn off if you don't want spoilers. I thought that Laymon was going to go down an interesting road here and that Melanie was somehow behind all of this mystery in some elaborate head-scratching way which would be worthy of the finest giallos. But in the end, it turns out that no, it's actually just a really quite straightforward story with no real surprises, other than a kind of epilogue, which, yeah, it's an okay addition to the story, but again, it's nothing mind-blowing. So, and notice, by the way, that I'm not going much into the story because there isn't really a great deal to go into. It just concerns an attack on Melanie and Penelope's father, who's been run over by a car, and they're just trying to figure out who done it and why. Yeah, so, I mean, we've got the usual Laymon stuff here. We've got Penelope, how it says there that she's stunningly beautiful, and of course she's instantly falls in love with the main lead. That was a bit tedious by this point. I'm 30 books into my Richard Laymon survey, and at this point, I am tiring of women who instantly writhe and moan in ecstasy as soon as a guy touches them, as always happens in Richard Laymon's own sexual fantasies. But it is a very readable book. Once you get past a relatively slow opening, it does keep you turning the pages. That's one of the good things. Style is its best point because it makes a very thin plot engaging. This is, like I said, very, very readable. You'll read this probably in one sitting. It's an odd one because even though it's a fun read, more so than several other of his books, it still manages to be probably his most forgettable book, simply because, really, like I said, nothing stands out. Whereas in his books, which are overall worse than this, there are at least a couple of crazy scenes that stick in the memory. But another thing which I do appreciate, though, about this book is the lack of sex scenes. I think there's really only one, and even then it's a flashback scene. So I was very thankful for that, because I've mentioned a lot in these books that I am getting really, really tired by now of Richard Laymon's very juvenile depictions of sex. There was one section here where it's classic Laymon, because the guy's obviously, Laymon had a nipple fixation, so he's fondling this girl's breast, and it says, "The breast was warm and smooth. It wasn't large, but it filled his hand. The nipple felt very big. The other breast was the same." Yeah, they tend to be the same, Richard Laymon, you know. Breasts are symmetrical, by and large. That didn't need saying, but other than that, that's the one sex scene I was talking about. Sex doesn't appear again in this book, thank God. So, yeah, this is going to be one of my shorter reviews, because, again, there is very little to say about this. I read it, I really enjoyed it while I was reading it. I finished the final page, closed it. This was about 5 days ago, I think. And if you ask me now to tell you the details of what I'd read, I'm struggling to do it. I don't really remember all that much. But to end on a positive note, you know, I will always admire Laymon's ability to pace a narrative and to keep the story's twists and developments moving on. It's not easy to do that at all. And as a writer, what Laymon lacked in imagination, he almost always made up for with his incredibly readable style. I think he had an unrivaled ability to keep readers turning pages, whatever the book was. However bad it might have been on a technical level, he just had such a stunning talent to make people finish his books and want to finish his books. So let me end on that. Actually, no, I'm going to end on a slightly negative note, because I forgot to mention the characterization. The characterization in this book is quite poor, because there's three main characters. There's Melanie and Penelope, the sisters, and this Bodhi character. And there's just nothing at all likable in Bodhi. Again, he's Neil from Buddy Rides. You know, he's the other. He's what's he called? Rupert from Ireland. He's the usual sex-obsessed young man, Laymon young man, and there's nothing at all likable in him. There's certainly no suggestion at all of why this beauty queen Penelope, who's very guarded about asshole men, why is she fallen head over heels in love with this guy inside of like a day? You know, because again, Bodhi is just the usual Laymon fare. He's always looking to catch glimpses of breasts. He's forever lusting after his girlfriend's sister, even when he's with that sister. There's nothing at all about him which would be appealing to Penelope as she is portrayed in this book. But in order to, you know, make the plot work, Laymon does contrive it so that she instantly falls for him. But all right, anyway, let's not quibble too much over Laymon characterization, because that's not really that was never one of his strengths. Right, well, Alarums 1993, that's going to do it. Very, very soon after this review, there's going to be another one, because I had a lot of time to read while I was convalescing. So thanks for watching this one, if you did watch it, and I'll be back very, very soon with another one. Bye for now, everybody.